Hello, everyone. Hope that you are having a wonderful, wonderful day wherever you are. And I hope you enjoyed whatever that music was. Plus settings. Let's go ahead and pull up one of our speakers here. My favorite part. And for everyone who's tuning in or listening to this recording, oh, hello, VIP. You knew I was going to do that.
Greetings, my friend. How are you?
Oh, scheming always. Thanks for taking a little bit of time late in your part of the world to let us celebrate your leadership. I'm excited about this conversation.
Same.
Yes,
Thanks for
yes.
inviting me.
Oh, it's literally the least I could do, Vernon. The least. I'm just kidding. And so we are getting started in just a second. We're just waiting for our other guest to join us. And the topic today is how to lead agile teams during uncertainty. So we're going to talk to y'all a little bit about how to weather the storm, whether it's during a company reorg or managing shifting business requirements, and doing all of that while also managing your team's project and, most importantly as well, software quality expectations. Yes. Mm-hmm.
Mm.
Vernon, just for time's sake, while we're waiting on getting our Erica up here, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and your background?
Yeah, okay. Greetings, everyone. My name is Vernon. I'm from a place called Leicester in the UK, which is one of those annoying cities that is not sp- uh, sp- pronounced how you think it would be when you look at how it's spelt. I've been in software testing and quality for just over 20 years now, so uh, it feels like I've been doing this for a while. And originally started off in teams delivering testing, like interacting with the product, testing stuff, finding bugs, reporting those things. And more lately, it's been in the quality engineering and the quality coaching space, and helping teams collectively own quality, own testing, get better at all those things. And even more recently than that, for the last few years, if you follow me on Twitter or anywhere else, you will hear me talking a lot about coaching, because I believe those skills are so well suited to testing and help us do better jobs with testing and quality and whole team approaches to quality and that kind of thing.
I love
That's
that. I
it.
love that. And I think that's important too, friend. And you actually recently published a pretty great. Erica's texting. She says I'm here. Yes. She says she's been here. Interesting. Can you tell me a little bit while I do a little stage mom in the background? Can you do me a favor, friend? Can you explain for anyone who's not familiar, how would you define modern agile software testing? And can it be summed up in a simple definition?
Oh man. You know what? I don't know. It's hmm. How to sum it up with one definition? There are so many good definitions that would all, I think, make sense. So there are, you could look at, I don't know, Morit Pahayavi has a lovely definition. Um, uh, who else? I don't know. James Back and Michael Bolton have a good one. Um, Alan Page and Brent Jensen, they would claim it's not about testing, it's about quality, but they have a nice way of framing it. For me, I think it's about doing uh, good quality related work in whichever context you find yourself in, so whether that's an agile one or not. Um, it's about adding value to the team and doing the best work that makes sense in that given moment. So it's a very context specific kind of
Hmm.
thing, and it's not necessarily about being like a fancy pants tester and getting very philosophical about things. It's about how does my work directly impact the business goals of the organization that I'm in, or the goals of the team that I am a part of. Uh, that's how I define it. That was very hand wavy. So forgive me. Push
No.
back on that, folks. If you think that was nonsense, please do let me
Oh,
know.
We love that, and it's early. We will keep this to 60 minutes, we promise, for everyone who's up late, your part of the world. But I love that. And also, we have with us the one and only, our other VIP today. We have Erika
Yay.
Chestnut. Hello, Erika.
Hey there, hey.
Hey.
Claire is struggling with tech apparently this afternoon, so sorry for the delay.
I love that. I'm like, who isn't struggling with tech these days, in it and or out of it? Just kidding. Too soon? Happening right now. Well, and that's what our topic of conversation is today. So we're so glad you're here, Erica. We already had our wonderful Vernon tell a little bit about himself and his background, and we were talking a little bit about modern agile software testing. But before we get into that, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. I've been at this for a little while, and this being in tech. I started off in development and got kicked out because I was complaining about quality, and they told me to go fix that instead. And I fell in love with the organization and strategy and process to deliver quality and lead quality. And I've been doing it ever since. I love to help teams and companies connect with the story of quality and not just the numbers, because that's how we fix it, is when we connect with it as humans through a story.
I love that, and that's powerful. And this is a question I was asking Vernon as well. I'm curious your take on it. How would you and or can we define modern agile software testing in a simple definition? Vernon gave one answer, so I'm curious what yours is.
Uh, um, a modern definition of agile
It was a
software
fun
test.
buzzword. It was a fun buzzword. Modern agile software testing.
I think that's it,
Mm,
right? Is that it's buzzy
hmm
now. Um, agile software testing is not one size fits all, and that's I think I believe that mentality is disruptive, but if we lean into that and leverage the strategies around agile, um, use and this is not the question you asked me as I'm realizing as what I'm answering, but using it as a tool of or guidance and how to drive quality
Mm.
and what we do. Like I just so when you say sum it up in a simple definition, I don't think it's one thing anymore.
Mm. Yeah, no, I can appreciate that. Someone was talking about a new term they'd heard, borderless engineering, and I was like, I kept it to myself. But you actually bring up a good segue too, because one of the things I wanted us to unpack a little bit today, and the topic today, and talking about leading agile teams during uncertainty, and we know that from the social media and from whatever have you, from all of our friends, a lot of people, teams, especially leaders, are struggling right now. They're having to make difficult decisions about their teams, leading software quality to meet the business requirements. I'm curious for you because you've both been in the space for a while now. How do you feel like agile software testing plays a part in how you can lead projects and teams during these types of uncertain times? And you touched on it a little bit, so I'd love to hear from either of you.
Vernon, you want to go? I didn't want to step over.
No, please, Erica, go for it.
No, I just finished talking. We're just going to be pleasant to
Oh,
each other.
okay, no problem, no problem. See, I'm very British, so that's gonna be a problem.
My
So,
family's so I get it.
so is this the question about what part it plays
Yeah,
in how we lead?
correct, correct.
Okay, so um, I think I think what it's about is at least well I've been doing it a while, so maybe this is not as relevant before uh, now, but definitely when I think about what it was like when I started,
Mm,
it was much more of an afterthought. Whereas now, I remember the first time I heard about DevOps, let's say, and I got very excited because I was like, oh, this whole thing is about testing. Awesome! Like I'm good to go. So it feels like uh, understanding what the state of the product is at all times is like central to how we work these days, particularly if you're in a very agile team that's very collaborative and very customer focused. That was not the case when I started. And when I started, by the way, the first thing that I was testing, this will date me quite badly, was PlayStation 2 games. And so you would literally build the game and go and print that thing on a master CD, and then you would send that thing off to get printed. So if any mistakes or bugs in that thing was a major problem, because you couldn't just download a patch to fix it. So it had to, quote unquote, had to be right. Um, but that didn't really impact how the game was built necessarily. At least back then, it was very much, well, we've got this idea, we're going to build it. We may or may not have tested it with any customers, and so on and so forth. Whereas now it seems to be much more central to what everybody on the team, and depending on the business, everybody in the business is doing. So I think that's the biggest difference for me personally.
Mm, I can appreciate that, and I think we're all getting older. Vernon, you said PS2,
Yeah.
which I am here for. I'm curious for you, Erica, if there's anything about that that spoke to you too. Again, thinking a little bit about leadership and agile, especially during these types of uncertainty.
Yeah, for me, what agile testing has kind of taught me is that iterate, move forward. And it's really I've really baked in kind of that concept of let's go through a cycle. Let's get touch points. Let's check in, whether it's on the project, whether it's one on one with a person in their career growth. As a leader, saying how do we move these things forward? When I think about rolling things out, whether it's new process or a proof of concept, it's all kind of that agile. How do we iterate? How do we move forward? Iterate, move forward, and just keep going through that cycle that gets buy-in, that gets people excited, that gets people on board and connected in with the changes that are coming through. So it's less change management feels less daunting. It feels less um, like Big Brother. And instead, there's buy-in, there's acceptance, there's interest and engagement around it. People feel like they have a say in things. And so, for me, from a leadership standpoint, leading projects, leading teams, people, and quality, it's iterate and move forward.
I can appreciate that. And just on a side note, too, for anyone who's here live with us, too, I love these small group leadership discussions. And so while we did have some pre submitted questions, too, you can always raise your hand, y'all, if you want to come ask any questions. That's what this next 60 minutes is here for. I do want to come back, though, to something, though. I was having a conversation with one of my friends. They're a new director of QA, they will remain nameless. They had just gotten budget approval last year to, get headcount. They went through the recruiting process. They got some great people on board, a little bit more junior, and then as we know, some companies are making hard decisions right now. Their teams were cut. There's new hires were gone. So you're talking a little bit about iteration, practice again. What advice do you have for that new director of QA that just started to build their teams, was really excited about these projects, but now has less people and is expected to do the same as a quality coaches? Yeah,
Communicate and collaborate.
say more.
Right? Like you've got to there's nothing that you can do about that, right? You've lost the head count or lost the team, but you still have a charter, you still have a responsibility to drive quality. But driving quality is not the sole responsibility, or the quality team is not only responsible for that effort. We are the champions of that conversation. We should be driving strategy. We should be the people that are the cheerleaders for quality and really inspiring others and helping them understand how they can lead quality for themselves. But at this point, it's not for us to be, we're not gatekeepers. We don't need to say that, you can't move forward unless you have this testing done through our team. But instead, we want to give others the tools. So when we don't have people available, that's when we really want to lean in on that communication and collaboration. How can I or the people that are available on my team support you, whether it's product design, app engineers, mobile engineers, to lead quality for yourselves? Do you need education? Do you need documentation? Do you need better process? What can we do outside of just being in the test column, right? That's how we've got to start thinking beyond we're here to just do that testing, that test column, that test step. But instead, how can we support others to think about quality and to lead quality for themselves?
Mm, I appreciate that. Thanks. Vernon, I'm curious for you and your teams if you've seen any kinds of shifts recently, or also as, for some of your clients, or if there's anything you wanted to echo off of what Erica just said.
Yeah, I was whooping in the background, particularly around the communication part.
Same
Um,
word.
yeah, Erica nailed that. Like the communication is key, and that isn't just with your peers. It isn't just with your direct reports. It's also with the people that you report into as well. I guess so. It's just communication all round. Um, and I would also add to what Erica said. Um, like you'd need to get like if you weren't before, you need to get even more laser focused on what does the business care about, and everything that you do should be aligned with that. Um, so that you know, it's hard times out there, and so making sure that people know what value you're adding to your team, it seems pretty relevant and pertinent.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
that's the only thing I would add to what Erica said.
I can appreciate that. I'm curious for you both too, right? We're talking a little bit more. Some of these people that are listening to this recording and are like, some of them are coming up, new leaders, right? Everyone is still refining their processes, and to echo Dominica de Grandes and making your work visible. I'm curious for you all. Do you have any pro tips as quality coaches that you could recommend to any of our listeners around leveraging more of that asynchronous communication to continue to make sure that people are informed, right? And is there a way that agile leadership plays into that at all?
Um,
I,
every organization
mm,
every organization communicates differently, and as quality leaders, I think it's on us to identify the ways, just in general, as people want to be communicated in a way that they can hear it, that they can understand it, that they can take it in. And so it's our responsibility to understand what's the best way. One organization really, really, really wants the data, but why do they want that data? Is telling them that there were 5 bugs open this past sprint valuable? What's behind it? Right? What are they really trying to get at? And so going back to kind of that story of quality, how do we tell that story of quality? How do we make it so that it attaches to their heart, right? Giving numbers doesn't attach it to their heart. So what is it that they're looking for? What is it that they're hoping to achieve? And working to create messaging around that and surfacing messaging in a way that people can connect with it and take it away. I'm not going to remember 5 bugs 2 sprints ago, but might remember the impact of that. And I'm able to take that forward and say, my team had this negative impact or positive impact. We should keep this up, or we should improve in this area. I can take the spirit of that conversation forward. So understanding how the teams communicate and what speaks to their hearts, what pulls on their heartstrings as people, as humans in the conversation, in a way that's not judgmental, but in a way that says we're all in this together. Let's partner. Let's collaborate.
mm. And do you feel like this is super helpful? Do you feel like right now, and I know I'm echoing this a little bit from what conversations we've had prior, I feel like I've known you both for so many years now. So I'm sorry if this is redundant. But for anyone who is new and is not privy to our past relationships together, I'm curious for you, right? We talk about cross-functional collaboration. We talk about building more effective relationships with your software development teams and leaders. We talk about being there earlier on with product, right? But I'm curious if there is any advice you'd give to those rising leaders right now that are like, oh, I really should focus on this department more than others, right? And maybe it's not a specific department. It depends, again, I know on the person, but I'm curious for you, what's kind of like a reality check for some of these rising leaders that are losing their teams, right? They feel like they've got to keep the ship steady, right? What's kind of like a test that they should ask themselves when they're thinking about what they need to be doing, what they need to be focusing on? Either or. You both are more than welcome. Vernon's so polite.
Could you could you summarize that question again for me,
Yeah.
please?
Yeah, I'm thinking about that rising leader, right? Someone who is just a new QA manager, right? They went QA lead, now they're a QA manager. They feel like they've been building more effective relationships with their developers, right? They've been there with product earlier on, but now they feel like when they're losing their teams, they kind of feel like they're dropping the balls left and right. I'm curious for you, what's kind of a reality check that this leader should do with themselves to make sure that they are moving forward their team and also their own goals for the company?
Oh, gosh. Uh, I guess it might be a bit of a repetition, but I've not been in that situation. So
Mm,
at the moment I'm not leading a team at the moment. So I haven't led a team through a situation like the one that we're in now.
hmm.
Uh, but what I have done in the past is tried when I have been leading teams is always try to understand what is it that my manager is on the hook for. Like, what battles are they fighting? Like, what do they need from me in order to make their lives easier? That's one thing. Another
Okay.
thing, again, like I said before, is to figure out what does the business care about and make sure that I am aligned to that. And also another thing uh, that particularly a new leader might face into is um, either they may have been promoted from within the team or they may have been hired into the team. So if you've been promoted from within, your relationships with your former peers is probably going to change. And so I would uh, not try and hide away from that, but kind of tackle it head on. Uh, and 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 that is not easy because they may have certain expectations of you because your relationship when you were peers was one way, but now you're in this leadership position, it may be a little bit different. And if you're hired in to lead a team, I would definitely make sure that you get to know the individuals on your team. And rather, I mean, this just applies regardless of what your role is, but um, try to avoid coming in and immediately start telling everybody what to do.
Mm,
Um, I'll try and because particularly when you're new, like everyone else knows where the bodies are buried except you. So you need to figure out what is the lay of the land. What have people tried before? How did that go? What did people hate? What are people's bugbears? What are their goals? What are their aspirations? And try and get your head around that. Erika talks about communication styles. That's another thing to try and figure out,
hmm.
um, and kind of bear all of those things in mind.
Well, you also forgot and who buried the bodies to begin with.
Yo, Tristan took an already dark phrase and just took it to a whole new level. But you're quite right. That's, in fact, jokes aside, that's a really important. That's actually a good move. Like, who
Yeah.
put the bodies there in the first place, right?
No, it's real. It's real. It's oh, sorry,
Yeah.
Erica. No, please speak to it. Speak to
I
it.
was just saying facts. You don't know who buried the body. You could be
Yo,
talking to the person that buried the body and they are
indeed.
telling you about the body and you think they are your friend, but you need to be careful because they might bury you too.
Hmm.
Say more.
Listen,
Say
you
more. Say
you
more.
don't you don't know what you're stepping into, and new leaders, we need to listen more than we speak. And it can be
Mm,
hard. I can tell you, like for me as a seasoned leader, I'm not old, I'm just seasoned. I It can be hard to hear things and be like, yeah, I know what the problem is. And or not, and not say that. It can be hard. You have to stop yourself. You have to listen, and you have to listen to a lot of people. And there's this balance, especially as a leader, that you have to play of I'm listening and I'm learning while also getting pushed from your manager and your manager's manager to take action on things that they hired you because they were like, you're going to be able to solve this, right? But you've got to listen first and you've got to learn first. And so you have to find that balance. But because it's all because you're looking for where the risks are, you're looking for where the gaps are, where the needs are, and how, and then identifying how you can support. If it's resources, if it's strategy, if it's process, if it's just being a listening ear, turning the box some way for the team to help improve quality. Hey, here's a gap you might not have been aware of, type thing. But so much of this is about listening at the beginning. I love to hold, I do a listening tour and I call it What the Bug. And I ask, I ask questions in buckets of process, people, and technology. And they shift for some slightly depending on, if I'm at the executive level, if I'm at the individual contributor. But for the most part, I would say 75% of the questions are the same, or at least of the same vein, because I'm trying to understand where the organization believes their problems are. And then what are they looking at to say this is not right? What is the executive team, concerned about quality? What are the individual contributors concerned about related to quality? And how are we responding to it? Because that's going to drive where we assess, or where we take action, not assess, but where we take action, and what type of action we take. And it's also going to help you for adoption. If you come in saying, we want to do this specific process, but the team has already told you that they've tried that and they hate it, it's not going to go over well, and you're not going to endear yourself to the team. And that's the listening part, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it makes me think a little bit about that quote. I always remind people when they want one thing but they do another, and it's James Baldwin. He said something like, "I can't believe what you say because I see what you do," and I feel like that's hard right now too, right? For you're talking about new leaders coming into organizations too, right? And it's also thinking about what existing leaders who have to make. How do you, I guess it's a long-winded way of setting up my next question for you all, because is there a way to kind of do a reset, right? Like maybe an organization has just laid off, I don't know, 7% is the new fancy number for big tech. So let's use that. They've laid off 7%, right? Companies have already been fighting beforehand, leading up to kind of, a layoff. Is there a practice that either of you lead with any of your clients around resetting a little bit, with leadership, whether it's communication, expectations, or if there's anything you can kind of, share there?
I love starting with communication.
Mm,
I've worked with a number of teams where I run disc workshops. Everything starts with communication. You can't develop relationships without effective communication. You can't build new things without effective communication. If people are speaking to each other and they're speaking past each other, or not in a way that's supportive of each other, your teams are not going to be high functioning. So yeah, communication, like having even just workshops where you're talking about, how do we communicate? How does my communication differ from yours? And how do we what are strategies that we can leverage in conversations to meet in the middle of that conversation, so that you hear positively what I'm trying to say, and that you respond in a way that I will hear positively what your response is. So communication is a big deal at this time. As companies are laying off, I think they need to work to bring the teams, their leadership teams together, and work on. I mean, it takes time, it takes money, obviously, but I think it's an investment that companies should make, which is, let me bring my team together and work on team building. Let me bring this group together, this cross-functional group together, and work on team building, because morale is down. People are not trusting um, of anybody, right? Like, it's just it's hard at this point to trust, and without that, you're not gonna teams aren't gonna be able to deliver with innovation. They don't want to. They're so worried about their jobs and that next layoff, that we can't be effective innovators and leaders, and really drive forward, because we don't trust the company.
mm, I feel like trust is a theme that I'm hearing a lot from people, especially right now in these trying to stay on brand uncertain times. But I really, really appreciate what you said. I'm curious. That's part of the thing, right? Is also how do you make a case? And I always put myself in that position of that rising leader, that QA manager, just because I feel like so many people don't get new skills taught to them. Fortunately, there's quality coaches like Vernon and Erika. I know. But I'm curious for you, Vernon, if you've seen any effective ways in the past where leaders have been able to communicate the value of, team building workshops around quality that Erica, was speaking to. Have you seen that, or is there any advice that you would have for people? Because those things take time, right? They take money, they take resources, and we all know on this call that it's going to be for the investment in the future software quality of your business. But how do you make that business case?
Yeah, it's gonna be. I've found it difficult. So I have in my current role right now, I have less um, explicit leadership responsibilities. But the argument that I'm trying to make, particularly with most of us being remote now, is that actually if we can figure out how to get some, if not FaceTime, because that could be, prohibitively expensive based on the climate that we're in right now, like some downtime just to hang out. Because as people, I think this is what Erica was alluding to. It's like as as the relationships and the bonds between the individuals in the team get stronger, then the work gets easier. And if the work gets easier, then the business wins. So it's not, it's, as tempting as it could be to kind of say, right, we've had to let some people go. And the reason we've had to let some people go is because we are in the financial, dire straits potentially, or trying to avoid something. Um, if you can kind of tell that story about how putting some slack in the system so that we can spend some time just hanging out as humans together, one way or another, uh, will impact the bottom line. I think that's kind of the way to go. And if you can get, again, if you can figure out what the communication style is of the business or the people that answer to you is, and kind of gather up that data, or structure your narrative in a way that's really going to land with them, then that would make that even easier again.
For sure. Erica, is there anything, and I really appreciate that, Vernon, is there anything that you would add to that too? You're, putting yourself in the shoes of that leader who is just, they're pressed, they just did some layoffs, they know that their, star, worker is thinking about leaving, they're a flight risk, they've got some other people out there as well, because believe it or not, tech is actually growing and hiring. How do you have that, that conversation with your manager and be like, listen, we got to get the team together. This is why.
Um, Acknowledge first and foremost that there's budget constraints if that's the case, and then coming to the table with some additional options. If it's not, we get the people in the same room because they're scattered about what are the other ways that we can engage virtually that are maybe a little bit more cost effective, but really driving home the impact and the power. Also identifying what are the outcomes, right? Like we're not identifying, but positioning the outcomes, the expected outcomes. What do you see? Like when you look at the data, industry wide, what do they say about when teams come together? Does morale increase, and by how much? Like make a case for it. Use data to make a case for it. Do the research. Um, and then talk about the specific needs of the individuals, saying, listen, we're going to lose this person, and then here's what they need, and if we lose them, here's the impact to the business. Is that a risk you're willing to take? Right? You, at the end of the day, you always need to make it a business problem. If we can make things a business problem, again, it attaches to the impact on them. It becomes their problem. They take it on personally because now, oh crap, that's a problem that's actually going to affect me, and not just a problem that you're having to deal with. And I can say, that sucks. I'm sorry. Right. And it's not to say that it's always going to, the money's going to magically appear. Of course, we're going to let this entire team to get together. Please go have a retreat for 3 days in the Bahamas. Right. That might not be the case, but if you're tying it to a problem that or a pain point that they're going to feel, you're going to get more interest in helping to solve that problem.
Hmm. I can appreciate that. And I feel like, and again, sorry, y'all, too, because I love these two leaders so much, as you can obviously tell. If you all do have any questions for them, you can always raise your hand and we can pull you up as a speaker. For anyone who hasn't done a Twitter space before, it's super easy. Just make sure that your mic is enabled on your mobile app. That's true. I know. And I think that's a really important segue over there, too. I know that for one of the reasons why I was so excited to have you all on and talk about this topic, it's not just timely. I think it's also important to a lot of leaders right now. They are, investing so much in their teams. And I think we sometimes forget the importance as leaders to also invest in ourselves professionally and personally, and also be around others like us. I've talked to so many, solo testers to managers that have limited resources and people, and they kind of feel alone. I'm curious for you all, and this is this isn't a sell. Don't kill me, Stuffy. But I genuinely believe in the power of in-person networking. I 100% believe in it. And I know it can be a luxury for some, but I do believe that there is, affordable opportunities out there. And I'm curious for you both. You first, Vernon, if you could talk a little bit. You've been doing some great talks, and you've got one coming up in May at Agile TD USA. I'm curious if you could tell us just a little bit of a window into your talk and kind of how some people listening to this, call live and a recording could benefit from that.
Oh boy. Okay. So, um, my talk is kind of related to what we're talking about right now. Surprise, surprise. So, there are three things that have been brought to my attention one way or another. Most recently, one of them is thinking about, well, what even is quality engineering, and how does that differ from uh, the testing of yesteryear, let's say. And for a lot of experienced testers, the answer is it's not that different at all. It's actually the same thing. And that is, at least in part about um, using your testing skills across the SDLC and maybe even across the business. Okay, so that's one thing. And then the second aspect of my talk is around glue work, which is this phenomenon of doing work that kind of falls between the cracks in terms of people's explicit responsibilities. But nonetheless, if that work does not get done, then the thing that you're working on is going to fail. Um, uh, and based on one talk by Tanya Riley, which I would advise you to go and Google. So that's Tanya Riley, glue work. If you Google that, you'll find her talk. You will. She defines it as technical leadership. So that's the second thing. And then the final thing is this phenomenon of quiet quitting, which is when people, and this came to the fore during the pandemic, and it's this phenomenon where people kind of say, do you know what, I've been busting my ass, I'm not getting any recognition for this, so actually I'm going to stick to explicitly what my job role description says. So if my job role says show up at 9, I'm showing up at 9, and if it says to leave at 5, I'm leaving at 5. And I'm not going to jump onto a Twitter space with uh, Tristan, no matter how much he tries to sweet talk me. I'm not doing it, and I'm
I'm
not going to go on
ruthless.
the.
I'm ruthless. Sorry.
I'm not going to go on it. It doesn't matter if you get an awesome guest like Erika. I'm not going on to it, right? And I think there's a relationship between those three things. And I'd like to figure out what that is. I have some hunches that I'm looking into right now, and so that is what my talk is going to be about. It's called "How Are We Failing QEs?" Because I think we might be. And here's the thing. So I think some of the solutions are going to fall into two camps. One will be, what should the organization and your leaders in that organization be responsible for? But more importantly, what can you as an individual do to avoid some of the pitfalls or to come out of the situation, not burnt out or not unhappy and things like that.
Mm, I can appreciate that. Yeah, it's going back to my theme again of invest in you, invest in you, invest in you. I
Mm.
was reading a stat from the Workforce Institute at UKG the other day, and it was saying that of those interviewed, I think it was like 3K respondents, 69% said that their managers, the study found 69% of people, their managers had a greater impact on their mental health, which was on par with impact of their partner, and more than a doctor at 51%, or even a therapist at 41%. So I
Wow.
think that as leaders, whether you're leading projects and or teams, you are a
Mm.
leader. And so, especially for managers, how are you getting back in there and checking yourself, investing in you to make sure that you are continuing to have that shit umbrella, so to speak, intact as much as you need to make sure your teams are doing okay. And I'm curious for you, Erica, and that was beautiful, Vernon. I want to come back to glue work, but also be mindful of time. So we'll see if there's some space at the end. Erica, can you
Mhm.
tell us a little bit more about your talk? I mean, your keynoting, and why that's relevant to today's conversation and what people can gain.
Listen, I just thankful that I'm going to be able to go listen to Vernon's talk. I was getting goosebumps. I was like, well, yes, that part and that part and that part. I'm excited for that talk.
Same.
Um, I am talking about something that kind of I've also mentioned here today, which is that quality championing, that idea that we've been we've narrowed our focus and our scope around quality. We've narrowed the idea of quality to the test step, and we miss opportunities to lead quality more broadly within an organization. I think as a community, a lot of testers struggle. The test teams that I've had the opportunity and the blessing to lead. Um, there were always a pocket of testers that were just dejected. They had been beat up. They did not feel valued. They did not feel heard. And I'm not just talking about manual testers. I shepherded a automation test team who was 3 sprints behind, and was like, nobody listens to us, nobody comes and talks to us, nobody uses us. It's everybody in the test team. I feel like as a community, as an industry, we're looked at as fungible resources and fungible support. Well, engineers can do that. The project management team can do testing at the end. They can do UAT testing. It'll be fine. And we've got to showcase our value beyond just the test step and what we bring to the table. And so my talk is about really encouraging the community and the leaders, especially, to look for those opportunities outside of the test step and to recognize all of the value that we bring, and then to make sure that we're championing that and socializing that value out of that. And steps to do that, things like branding quality. Quality isn't always approachable. Quality is, the idea of quality, we talk about the negatives. We need to celebrate. We need to celebrate when we have team members, engineers that are quality champions. Let's celebrate them. Let's tell them why we value that, and that we appreciate it. Right? Let's get out there in a way that is positive, that makes quality approachable, the idea of quality, and makes it fun, and makes it so that people want to hear from the team and engage with the team. So I'm talking about how quality is bigger than the box that we've been put in.
I love that. So wait, so your tagline isn't "Make quality fun again"? That's not your tagline?
You know, it might now be. It might be now.
Let's wait and see how the next 2 years plays out. I'm just kidding. Too soon. No, but I do think that that's super important too, because and this is what reason number 6,225 why I adore you both in your brand of leadership is I do believe that in uncertain times, right? Having that agile software testing spirit, like you were both talking about, it's also important to see all aspects of quality. And that includes the people and the leaders, the decision makers, and the users using your product. And I do think that you have to infuse some celebration, even in hard times. I know for some people, it feels like, ooh, what if I'm tone deaf, right? We just laid some people off. How do I show up and celebrate some of our wins, right? And I hear this a lot from some of my friends and QA managers. And it's like, no, you've got to, because people are looking for wins right now. They're looking to hear more of that and see. I'm curious for you both too. What advice would you both give to that leader right now? And I know I keep on going back to QA manager or QA lead. I mean, well, QA lead's a whole other story. They don't get the recognition they deserve, but they have all the responsibilities. But going at that new QA manager, right, who is feeling downtrodden, right? They feel like, should I be looking for a new job? They also know it's important to celebrate some of their teammates and their wins. What would you say to them right now if you could?
It's okay to share that you don't have it all put together. It's
Mm.
okay to show up as human first, that you have fears and anxiety, and that you are just like the person next to you, whether that person reports to you, whether that person is your peer or your leader. We are all humans in this. We start there. We all have emotions. We all deal with it. You do not need to be a robot. You do not need to put on, that strong facade. Show up and be transparent. It doesn't mean that you're going to say, this is what, you know, I heard in the executive meeting that you guys are not invited to, and I'm not supposed to share at this time, but it does mean that you can say, I recognize that there are concerns. Here's how I want to or can support you. Yes, I think that there's an opportunity to begin to look outward because you're aware that things are moving in the direction, of layoffs. If you firmly know that, help people. It doesn't mean you have to say the exact thing, but start with human. How would you want to be supported? How do you feel or would feel in that situation, and how can you support others? So show up first as the human. Um, Work through it from a relationship standpoint. Be supportive of the business. Don't throw the business under the table, or put them at risk, but show up as human. And that's okay for you to show that and be that way. Just remember your North Star as well
Mm.
as supporting the business. You are a person first. You're a human first.
Mm, I love that, and right, and that was super super powerful, and I think that's something else for any of our listeners live and or to this recording. Um, we don't always get the management, leadership, motivation that we need and deserve, right? And I had a mentor once tell me, they said, Tristan, I've never had a manager, that I really got inspired by or motivated by. But while that kind of sucked for me, I always envisioned myself as that old happy man on the hill, and I wanted to look back on my career, not to get too existential, y'all, but I do think it's important for this conversation. And so I look back at that older me, off more far off in my career, and I say, would they be proud of me? So sometimes you've got to do it. You've got to do it for future you. If you can't do it for you and or your teams and everyone right now, but we are in a business too, right? I'm curious for you, Vernon, what is advice that you would give to that QA manager right now that feels downtrodden, that is having a hard time right now, that knows they need to motivate, knows that there's a business and business requirements need to be met?
Yeah, that was very good advice from Erica. I would build on that by saying you so you're going to need some support. So you need to make sure that you have support in place, either from peers at your organization or from peers from outside the organization. I think that's the thing that's going to enable you to get through it, because it is tough. You're going to have a team of people who are going to be looking to you for strength and to potentially have all the answers, quote unquote. And if you don't have them, that if you don't have the answers, like Erica was saying, because you are human, that might you might feel like you're letting them down. And so get the support that you need to get through that, because you aren't letting them down. You are allowed to be human, and you are deserving of support. And so, depending on who's in the team, when you're showing that vulnerability, there are different ways to do that. Be mindful of the fact that you being vulnerable could freak out some of the more junior members in the team, potentially, just as an example. But that's not to say you shouldn't show that vulnerability. Just be aware of how you are doing it, and show your human side. But above all else, make sure that you have your support in place, because the job is hard at the best of times, and this isn't the best of times.
I that's powerful, and I would so appreciate you all. And I have to say, for everyone, if you can't make it out to Agile TD USA in Chicago coming up end of May, early bird tickets will still be on sale for you until the end of this month. Sorry, I had to do that. It's my marketing hat off. What I wanted to say is, I want to make sure we leave a little bit of time just at the end for people who are in back-to-back meetings. I know it's late, you're part of the world, Vernon. I'm curious if you both are open for some very quick rapid fire questions.
Yes.
You ready? You both ready?
Let's go.
Okay. All right. Erica, you first. What's the number one song that you're listening to right now and why?
It's Big by Mike. What is his name? Pastor Mike.
Okay. Okay. I'm making a note. I love that for us. And why?
It talks about it's all the energy I have around what I want for my life. It's going to be big. I'm going to have big blessings, big come ups, big job, big role, big opportunities, big bank account, big all of it. It's about my life being more than what my little brain says it will be, but instead everything that God has prepared for me. And it's definitely got to be big.
I love that. I love that so much. And Vernon, I'm going to come to you in just 1 second, friend. For anyone who is requesting to speak, we do have to wrap in just a few minutes, but I will let you both know that Erika and Vernon are incredible. They're across all social media platforms. Shoot them a message if you want to learn more about their talks or their coaching or whatever have you. Vernon, same question. Number one song that you're listening to right now and why?
Man, I don't know. I'm like scrambling for Spotify right now.
I gave you a second place for this reason.
Well,
I'm just messing
a
with
song
you.
I've been listening to a lot lately is it's a kind of an older song. It's called uh, "We're Gonna Make It." It's by Jada Kiss and Styles P.
Mm,
And just like the title says, we're gonna make it. So that's I've been listening to that a lot over the last, I don't know, 2 3 months. So
mm,
yeah,
I'm making a note. This is good. What's the
parental
okay?
advisory, explicit lyrics, by the way, on that one. Yeah.
Which we should start with one of these Twitter spaces just by saying, if you know me, dear readers, I love that. I want to follow up with that, Vern, same question to you. Sorry, different question. What has been the best recent Agile software testing blog that you've read and why?
Oh my god. I would say it's not so much about explicitly about testing, but
Hmm.
go and read anything that John Cutler writes.
Mm,
That is he's very good at explaining stuff that teams and organizations do. So I would definitely recommend that. And there was a I will folks remind me to send this link if I forget. But my friend Lizzie Hocker shared a blog post, and I can't remember who wrote it, but it was about um, reliability. I think the difference between reliability and resilience. That was cool. So I will find a link for that and I will retweet it again. And if I don't, then everybody in this call, please nag me, like blast me on Twitter, and I'll find it.
that's what Stage Mom and your fans are for. We got to. I
Yeah,
made it out.
yeah, you will. Yeah, you will blast me. I know that for sure.
You know I will. Erica, same question. Best software, and it could be agile, it can be software testing, it can be more around leadership, it's whatever you want. But I want to know the best recent blog you read and why.
Unfortunately, my brain struggles with blogs. Like
Mm,
it's like shopping the sales rack. I want to do it, but it's just hard. There's so much to look through to like get the good stuff. But there's a lot of great blogs out there. So I struggle to connect to just one constantly. So blogs for me just kind of surface as, oh, that was a good post, somebody posted it. But I will say the a recent book that I read, which was The Complete Software Tester by
mm.
Kristen Jack Vonnie, that
Yes.
and I loved it. It was a great read. It wasn't too heavy. I think it's a great resource for people that are interested in quality. And it's just like, it was a solid, like, well-rounded conversation around quality. I really, really liked it. So I went book over
Mm.
blog.
I'm here for all of that. I also love books. Also, shout out to anyone in our DevOps Leadership Book Club crew. We're a small group. We meet monthly. It's super fun. You all can vote for whatever books you want, and then we discuss them for an hour. So anyone is more than welcome to come. But I love that. Um, just as we wrap up here, y'all, and again, I'm so sorry for anyone who wanted to come up and speak. Should have done it earlier, and I love you. It's okay though. So lastly, I want to say parting words, y'all, for any of these leaders right now that are, feeling extra challenged right now in these uncertain times. Any closing words for them, Vernon?
I would say get the support that you need, and at the same time, trust your instincts. Look out for your team, and they will look out for you. And look out for your boss, and they will look out for you.
That last part's also very important. I love that. Erica, closing words.
Relationships, build them and leverage them. Build
Mm,
relationships with the people around you, above you, next to you, and below you, and then leverage them. Don't be ashamed of that. If you've built an authentic relationship, they will want to support you, they will want to help you. Build authentic relationships and then leverage them.
I absolutely love that. I think that is so clutch. And I think a lot of people too remember that it's so easy to shoot someone a DM, so easy to text someone. A lot of people, one of the number pieces of advice I always give people is never make decisions out of fear. Always make decisions out of the belief that it'll better your life and your loved ones around you. And that includes you too. So if you're ever scared to shoot someone a DM, don't be. That's fear based. Do it out of love. I will say as we wrap up here, y'all, definitely, if you can make it, Agile 2D USA is genuinely the best software testing conference I've ever been to. The community is like no other. You get to meet these amazing speakers live, and also get to meet with others too. It's also about investing in you. So take a look, go online. We'll be sure to share more resources after. And we're going to be doing more of these Twitter spaces with some of my favorite House of Stage Mom members and just the Agile software testing leaders that you know and love. So stay tuned. We'll share this recording for everyone else. If you are late in your part of the world, good night. And for everyone else who's wrapping up their day, stay at it. Let's have an awesome week ahead. And we'll talk soon. Thank you, Vernon. Thank you, Erika. You're international treasures.
Thank you.
Thanks, Tristan. Thanks, Erika. Thanks, everybody.
Bye.